The weekend started off on a surprising note, but then quickly shifted into what we probably expected. Despite all of that, there's plenty to talk about. We're going to give you the things that you need to know from the Auburn versus Florida baseball series, the scores, the players, and everything else right here. War Eagle, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyle here at E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. As you're watching or listening today, be sure to drop a comment down below about this particular topic. It'll help enter you into that ongoing subscriber giveaway for a signed Auburn football prize package. Details are listed in the description link. And lastly, we do want to thank members of our booster club like Ann W. Well produced videos like this. Short, sweet, to the point, and Auburn baseball. That's the how and the who we're covering in this particular topic today. All the things that you need to know from the three-game series for Auburn baseball down in Gainesville taking on the Florida Gators. And as I already addressed, some things that we expected happened, but there were some good things, especially for Auburn, to talk about from this series that we're going to try to note for you in this particular video. But let's start right at the very beginning. The most important thing that you want to know: what were the scores for this particular series? Well, Auburn only was able to get one game out of the three-game series, which is still a feat in and of itself. In game one, getting the win 10-1. Game two, the score was 5-12. In game three, the score was 8-17, which brings the overall record now to 18-9-1 in the year and 3-6 in their SEC record. Game one got off to a really hot start for the Auburn Tigers, winning 10-1. The first two innings alone are where they got all the runs that they needed and really surprised a lot of folks. Probably took the Florida Gators by surprise too. You combine that with a great pitching effort by a trio led by Will Canning starting off the game, who only gave up one run himself, the only run of the game. Game two was more of what we expected from the Florida Gators, asserting themselves early and pretty much maintaining that throughout the entirety of the game. Now, Auburn was able to somewhat keep pace with them, but having to cycle through a few pitchers and obviously not getting as much offense as Florida resulted in them getting the win, the Florida Gators, that is. Game three is a bit misleading in terms of a score. You see 8-17, you think, well, that's a blowout, and actually it ended up being that. But at one point, Auburn was in the lead 8-3 behind the start of Tommy Vale. Florida basically just woke up again and did what you expected a team like them to do. Now that you know the scores, let's talk about some players of note. And you would think in this particular thing, we're going to be talking a lot about offense because there was a lot of offense from both teams. But I do, especially for game one, want to talk specifically about some pitchers of note because of how impressive it was getting Auburn off to a great start. We'll start off with the first of that trio, which was Will Canning, who went 4 innings, only allowing one run, the only run for Florida in that game. Got the Tigers off to an outstanding start. You couple that with who came after him in that particular game, Tanner Bauman, who got 4 strikeouts and 4 innings of scoreless work to secure the win for the Auburn Tigers. You cannot discredit, even though it was just one game in the series, what these two were able to accomplish for Auburn against this type of an opponent. And on the offensive side of the ball, some names of note that we're very familiar with. Ike Irish on the weekend, 5 for 14, which included 5 total RBIs, adding a ground rule double, a home run as well to his list of accolades. And then, of course, we talk about Bryson Ware a lot, and we're going to talk about him again right here. 4 for 12 on the weekend and led the team in RBIs of the series with 7 total. And finally, some series notes and takeaways from down in Gainesville. The game one win for Auburn was the largest margin of victory in an SEC road game so far this season for the Tigers. This was also an offensive clinic. You had a lot of offensive firepower from Auburn, obviously, but we got to see Florida too and see what they're capable of with names like Caglione. And then lastly, Tommy Vale. This was something that was interesting to me. He got the start in the last couple of series for game ones of those particular series and was switched to the starter for game three, and it didn't go as well. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets swapped back as we're trying to figure out how to survive this season in terms of pitching for Auburn. And the takeaways for me from the series with Florida: game one is an example of the potential of this team. Yes, offensively, we've already known that, but what the pitching can accomplish as well. So I look for that to carry over a few more times in a few other games and series for the rest of the season. And we did obviously get the win, the one we had to have so we wouldn't be swept by Florida in this series. Right now, Auburn's got to salvage every game it can in SEC play, and I'm glad that we were able to do that in game one against Florida. So there you have it, my thoughts of the Auburn versus Florida series. Would love to know your thoughts about the particular games, anything that I didn't talk about here, down in the comments section below. Be sure to do that to be entered into that ongoing subscriber giveaway for the signed Auburn football prize package. And lastly, do want to remind you to check out the links in the description for ways you can help support us here at E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. War Eagle.